Hey guys, how's it going? Today I'm going to talk about the 5 things that I love and the 5 things that I don't love about my RAV4 XLE Premium. Now this video may be titled a bit strangely. Normally videos like these, the titles would always be the 5 things that I love and the 5 things that I hate. But when you watch those videos and they talk about the things that they supposedly hate, do they really hate it, or is it just minor inconveniences or pet peeves? So that's what this video is all about. It's going to be the 5 things that I love and the 5 things that I didn't exactly love. But those things, those cons, did not detract from the overall value of this car. When I bought this car, I kind of weighed the pros and cons, and the pros far outweighed the cons. But with every vehicle, not all of them are perfect. So I'm going to talk about the 5 things first, and then the 5 things that I don't like. So a little bit of a disclaimer. In this video, everything's strictly my opinion, no one else's. And this RAV4 that you see here in front of you, this is the XLE Premium, the gasoline version. So it is not the hybrid version, it is the gas version. So we'll start with the 5 things that I love and then the 5 things that I hate. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing that I love about my RAV4 is the engine, the powertrain, the fuel economy. So right here we have a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine, creates 203 horsepower, 184 pound-feet of torque. Now on paper that may not sound impressive, but trust me, after nearly owning this vehicle for a year, it is a more than capable engine. Even in eco mode, I'm able to overtake on the highway easily, and it's just a very good engine. And what I also like is how everything's just simple here. Like, you have the batteries right here for ease of access. You have your fluids. Everything's within easy access here. So it's not everything is crammed into this engine bay. The fuel economy is pretty good for Toyota. It is 28 miles per gallon in the city, 35 miles per gallon on the highway, which for a Toyota gas version, it is very impressive. For example, if you compare it to the 4Runner, which still creates about 13 city and 16 highway. So this engine, even if on paper it may not sound impressive, trust me, if you ever have a chance to test drive it, just get a feel for this engine and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, the next thing that I love about my RAV4 is the sunroof situation. Now, the unique thing about the sunroof is that not only do you have a cover right here which protects you from the sunlight here, especially in South Florida, but you have 2 functions with the sunroof. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So here you have one option that'll fully retract the sunroof back, and then there's another function here which will open it partially but from the rear. So let me show you for example. So I'm going to push this fully into the rear and right there, and now let me retract it again. So that's to move it fully aft. Now to just open up the aft, like I said right here, and it'll only open just a crack. I like the fact that you have both of these options available and that you have this cover right here. I live in South Florida and I love to go to the beach, so having this feature is absolutely handy and I absolutely love that. Now the next thing that I love about my RAV4, is going to be a little bit difficult to translate this onto camera, but it is not only comfortable, but it is smooth. So in this XLE Premium, I have these SoftTech seats. So they're not leather, but they're about a step below it, but very comfortable. Even the back seats, there's plenty of room. I'm 6'1". I have the back seat all the way back to where I would be sitting, and I still have a few inches. The seats are not harsh. I can recline them back just a little bit. I have 2 rear climate control vents. I have 2 outlets right here. And on the road, this thing is just smooth. Even though the engine is noisy and you do hear a little bit of the road, I do like the fact that it's just the compromise in return is that it's a smooth ride and it's just comfortable sit-in. Like I said, it's difficult to translate that onto camera, but if you ever get the chance, go sit in one, test drive it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Alright, the next thing that I love about my RAV4, and some people may disagree with me on this, but I love the styling and the color. So the color that you see here is Lunar Rock. So it has a very lightish grayish slash bluish color, which looks really beautiful during the evening hours. And I like how sporty this looks compared to its predecessors. The predecessors just kind of look like normal small SUVs, but this one has that more sportier, aggressive look that I like. I know that some people, they don't like that in regards to SUVs, but in my opinion, it looks gorgeous. A gorgeous car. And this color, from what I've heard from a lot of people, has been a very popular choice. But that's one thing that I love about this RAV4. Now, the last thing that I love about my RAV4 is how simple everything is laid out in this interior. It is not a complicated, it's not overwhelming. It's just a basic, simply laid out interior. For example, we don't have a big touchscreen. We just have a mini one, but you can control the climate controls here. You have your options to control it right here. You have your automatic start-stop buttons, your heated seats. I have a USB little port right here so I can plug in an MP3 player or whatever. I have my music playing. I have two 12-volt outlets, one in the front, one in the rear. So for example, I have a dash cam hooked up here. The use of storage space is really good as well here. I have two cup holders. I have a nice little cover right there with two USB charging points. I have a nice little cover here. Glove box. Even the sides. You can store your water bottles, sunglasses. You can open up the trunk automatically from here. You have a heated steering wheel. You can adjust the brightness of the infotainment right here. You have your automatic high beams. I can adjust the volume or switch between stations right here. Even I have everything here for my safety things, like my blind spot monitoring, cruise control. Here I can activate with the sunroof, the lights. Everything's just so simple here. Nothing's too complicated. Has everything that I need. Sometimes it's nice to just be able to go from point A to point B without having to worry about something breaking down. Like I mentioned before, the back seats are very comfortable. The cargo is also useful. Honestly, it's just a perfect vehicle for me. I just need something that can do its job, be reliable down the long term, and that's all you can really ask for. Now, the first thing that I don't like about my RAV4 is the height clearance between the rear seats and then the front seats, which means getting in and out is a little bit more trickier in the front than it is the back. So for example, I'm 6'1", and for me, it was much easier to get into the rear seats than in the front seats. So let me demonstrate that real quick. So you can see that I had to duck in a little bit more when I was getting to the front seats than in the rear seats. So just giving you the heads up to anyone out there who is tall, or they have family members or friends who are tall, they may be more comfortable sitting in the rear seats than they do in the front seats. And it is kind of strange because in every other SUV that's out there, it's normally the back seats that are compromised. So if you've ever seen the BMW X6 or the Range Rovers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's one thing I just didn't like about the RAV4. Now, one thing that I don't like about the RAV4 is how noisy the engine is. Now, I did talk about how capable and how mighty this engine is, but it's not quiet. You hear a lot of it on the road. It's, you know, like I said, it's not the hybrid. So you do hear, you not only hear a lot of the engine noise, but you also hear a lot of the road noise. Now, the next thing that I don't like about my RAV4, and this is sort of the things that you can tell between a front-wheel drive model versus an all-wheel drive model, is that you're going to have blank switches and then items that would normally be in an all-wheel drive model but are not in the front-wheel drive model. Every vehicle that has ever existed, they're going to have blank switches, where normally if you pay bigger money for a higher model, that's where you'll normally have your switches. So one of them, for example, is here in this strip. Like, you have the light dimmer right here. You have your automatic high beams, your de-icing fluid heated steering wheel, and then you have the automatic trunk opener. But then you have this empty switch right here. What would normally be there? If you had the all-wheel drive model or the higher trim level, since this is only the XLE Premium, this would be the 360 panoramic view for the rear view camera. Honestly, is it really going to be that much more expensive to just make this bar a little bit smaller? That way you don't have this blank spot. I mean, every automaker kind of has that issue where no matter how much money you're spending, you're going to have blank switches. But in this RAV4, there's one thing that's really eye-opening, and that's this spot right here. If you buy the all-wheel drive model, this is where your multi-terrain selection would be. So if you want to do mountain, snow, mud, or rock, this is where you would adjust it. But for the front-wheel drive model, which is this one, they just basically cut it out and you have this little space. Now, understandably, you do have several areas of open spaces. Like you have one right here, you have another one right here, but this one just seems so out of place. And you can't really fit that much to begin with. Like, for example, this is the key fob, and it barely doesn't even fit in there, and it would just rattle around. I mean, you can fit coins, you can fit a USB player, but you're basically limited to what you can put in here. So I know Toyota tried to, instead of leaving this completely like covered and everything, they try to use one more little area of storage, but honestly, it's not that necessary, and it does look out of place. All right, one thing that I don't like about the RAV4, and this is going to seem strange to a lot of people, and I'm going to sound like an old fart when I say this, but I miss the fact that there's no CD players or an auxiliary port in this vehicle. Basically, everything new that's coming out today, they've basically done away with CD players and auxiliary ports in exchange of Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, vice versa. I'm an old school guy. I love my CDs. I just think audio CDs have a better quality. It's not compressed like MP3s are. Even though I do have an MP3 port right here, like a USB, so I can play my music, I kind of miss that fact that there's CD players are no longer around. So I know that may seem like a bizarre reason to not like something about a car, but that's just my opinion. Alright, so the last thing that I don't like about my RAV4 is the cargo lighting situation. So to demonstrate that, so you can see it's in the middle of the night. For this example, I have the passenger and then the front lighting off so I can demonstrate. So the lighting situation is right here to the side. And yeah, that's all you pretty much get. You have about this much illumination over here, but pretty much on the left side you have pretty much nothing. Now usually you normally have lighting up here, or you have one over here and then one off to the side, but in this RAV4 that's pretty much all you get. But let me show you how it looks when you have the passenger lighting on. So it improved a little bit, but not much. As you can see that there's still some dark areas in the cargo area. So not really impressed with the lighting situation. Well, there you have it, guys. The 5 things that I love and I don't love about my RAV4. If you want to see a more in-depth review of this SUV, I have a link in the description as well as a link in the video. Honestly, when I was going through the Toyota dealership and I was test driving and checking out all the vehicles, there was just so many good things about this SUV, and the pros just far outweighed the cons, and I was really happy that I got this SUV. It pretty much surpassed my expectations. It's done everything that I've wanted, and honestly I couldn't ask for any more. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Until then, take care.